What's up, everybody? Robert Thompson here with the second part of my screenwriting process. Did realize that I could share the information a bit better with you if I include some writing up here on the second screen, so be sure to keep an eye on that as we go over some things. I'm going to try to start laying it out a little bit more clearly for you. Everything that I go over from this point forward is very common sense from the perspective of somebody with experience in film. I will try my best to break it down for you as clearly and concisely as possible. I may carry on a little bit, I apologize, but I'm not going to hinder what I have to say for the sake of time. You'll get the point eventually. So, the last video, the introduction, was having to do with different screenwriting software and basically bringing us up to the start of the first draft. Again, I'm going under the assumption that you have never written a script before. You have never done anything except perhaps some light hobby writing, which is totally fine. But you're suddenly, you have an idea that you can't get rid of. You have characters screaming in your head, and you need to get their voices out, and you feel like it's time for you to sit down and try to write your 90 pages to get their story out, beginning, middle, and end. So first thing, again, we'll try to review a little bit. I'm using OpenOffice because I don't have Word. Courier New, which is the general type for script writing, and then size 40 font, just so you can see it in the picture there. But 1 page of script equals 1 minute of movie. We went over that in the first one. Just a refresher. If you're writing short films, getting practice in before you really set into that feature-length project, and you're finding as you watch the editing and you watch the rough cut that it's not lining up, there's something, it's the shots are too quick, the shots are too long, the actor's taking too long in a shot that you want him to take too long, but it's not in the script that way. That's fine. But before you set into that 90 pages, you really need to work on the layout of the script. 1 page of script equals 1 minute of movie, generally speaking. If it doesn't, then usually the layout has issues in it. And I say that because bigger movies, once you turn in your script, you're done writing it, period. So they will change to their rhythm how it plays out. All right? Think of a script kind of like a readable music sheet. There is, a matter of fact, the general layout and what has come to be known for its layout is there's a book by the name of Save the Cat. If you don't have it, I highly recommend picking it up. It is reasonably priced on Amazon, last I checked, and it has everything to do with what you're going to go for in your script on average. But this book also lays out these aspects and gives you an idea of what that rhythm is. Your script is your roadmap to complete the movie. Without a solid script, actors won't know what to say, how to feel, why they feel the way that they feel, what their past experiences are, and directors won't know what direction to give. They won't know if a character should be sad, should be happy, confused. Scripts even strongly indicate to cinematographers what their shots are going to be, what shots they absolutely don't need to worry about. And again, all of these aspects have creative outlets within filmmaking. I am not saying don't take the chance to get a creative shot if you're a cinematographer. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have 90 pages to tell a story beginning, middle, and end, and this is the roadmap for what they're going to follow. There are 2 key words that I want you to remember when laying out your script. You have all your information, you sit down to write out your script, and it's time to lay it out. One of the key important things in laying out your script that anyone who reads your script is going to question whether or not you do this professionally or have potential is going to go off these 2 key words. These 2 key words are going to be found in the upper right-hand corner of your very first page. Not your title page, page 1. Fade in. Period. Fade in will either be at the very top right corner of page 1, or once you get more experienced and you can figure out the layout of an elongated opening sequence, then it can change placement within your script. But always, generally speaking, the first 2 words in your script should be fade in. Period. All right? Once you do that, you're going to go down, and again, I'm not working on the total layout of a script. I just want to include what we're going to be going over here, which is mainly the beginning portion. And I'll include in here as one more reminder, 90 pages is the general consensus for what a movie should be these days. That's an hour and a half if you don't know how to tell time. 90 pages. No more than 105 max, and that's really pushing it. You turn in a script that's supposed to be 90 pages at 105, they're likely going to tell you that some stuff needs to be cut. 85 to 87 with credits minimum. If you have a movie that's 85 minutes with credits, it's not too short, but it's going to be, if it's well paced and well written, it's going to hit at an extremely fast rate, at a fast pace. Most movies hit at least the 87-minute mark without credits. So if they come out to 90 to 92 minutes with credits, that's acceptable for most people, but you're going to have about an 87-minute movie. 85 minutes, especially with credits, pushing it on how short you're making it. They're going to probably ask you to add a couple scenes. And you've probably missed a couple scenes. So, that is the refresher from yesterday. Now we move on. We're sitting down to write our first draft, and we have 3 things we need to focus on starting now. Beginning, middle, and end. For this episode, or for this part, we're going to focus on one portion. That is the beginning of a 90-page script. You're going to assume, let's assume that if we break down 3 portions between 90 minutes, all 3 portions are going to have 30 pages. That's your assumption. That's a safe bet. You have to truly be mind-blowingly perfect to hit that page count per act, but that's not how it's going to be. So for today, we're going to focus on the beginning, which will be roughly 30 pages. All right? The beginning, middle, and end of your movie are going to be broken down by acts. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. This goes back to theater, thousands of years of theater experience. All have been developed into a 3-act structure. Its evolution has led to it. I believe theater sometimes goes to 5 acts. I'm not a theater major, but 3-act structure is your basic layout. 3-act structure means I have a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's an inciting incident, there is detail, and there is climax to the story, and there is an end. There is a wrap-up. There is a finite moment to the story where it's done. Okay? Your beginning is going to be roughly 30 pages of 90. All right? 30 out of 90. So, in your beginning, what is the main focus of writing the beginning of your script? Character development. Number 1, character development. The vast majority of your first 30 pages is going to be explaining and showing who your characters are, what their names are, why they are the way that they are, and if they're good or bad. Your characters may be amoral. Your characters may be anti-heroes. That's all well and good. Ultimately, when doing your layout and your research, you want to lay out whether or not they are a good or bad character. Their motivation for why they are the way that they are is either good or bad. Period. There's no arguing about this fact. As in, murder, bad. Getting a cat out of a tree, a la Save the Cat, good. Okay? Character development is your number 1 priority. Names, inciting incidents, why the story progresses the way that it does, why this story is playing out. For instance, let's look at a movie about, say, a bank robbery. So, if a movie involves a bank robbery, the inciting incident and motivation, look at it as the motivation for the character. The motivation for your lead character is something positive or something negative. You can have a movie with no good guys. Potentially. It's possible. It's all a matter of what their motivations are and how they follow through on them. I'll give you an example of that being From Dusk Till Dawn. George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, vampire movie from the 90s. Technically speaking, the lead characters are villains. The heroics of their actions and their motivations do not turn heroic or anti-heroic until they have no other option but to be heroic. Generally speaking, if your main characters are villains, it's ultimately because they're going up against characters that are worse than they are, like From Dusk Till Dawn. These guys are thieves, they're murderers, they're escaping the country, they're bad fucking guys. What do we include them in there that's worse than them? And what do we lose all the good characters to? Vampires. Literally, I shouldn't have to do this after this long. Spoiler warning. At the end of the movie, the only 2 characters left alive are Juliette Lewis and George Clooney. And George Clooney immediately goes back to being how he is. He is a villain. That's all he knows how to be. The circumstances of the movie that we just watched for 90 minutes or so dictates that he acts in a heroic manner. There is something worse than he is. Totally fine. But you have to know that beforehand. You have to lay that out within the research period. So, inciting incidents have to do with their motivation. Why are the characters doing what they're doing? All right? You generally want to get the inciting incidents laid out before you get to the middle of the script, because the middle of the script is going to be the flesh that you carve into of the movie. That's going to be the heavy stuff, the action sequences, the horror sequences. If you're talking about a horror movie, which is what we're working on now, the middle would be where most of the characters die. Most. Alright, so you have to know names, inciting incidents, and introductions. Those are the first three key important parts of writing your script of the first act. Alright, beginning Act 1. Name, inciting incidents, and introductions. It's very often. You would be shocked at how often a writer sits down and starts writing, typing it out, and I've done this regularly, and I've been doing this for 30 years. I'll get 20 pages into the script and realize no character has said another character's name the entire time. No character has introduced themselves. No character has introduced another character. We are, from a viewer standpoint, from the audience's standpoint, we have no idea who they are. That's a serious problem. So always, when I say names as one of the main three parts, I mean you have to literally include, hey, my name is I am, and that's what they do. And that has to be a focus. You have to introduce the main character. All right, you're going to have. We're going back to talking about the Ted Bundy slasher film that we're working on that we've completely made up for this script. So Ted Bundy is the main character. All right. Let's decide on. I want to have 5 characters die at the moment, at minimum. Okay. Now I've researched and I know that Ted Bundy killed more than 5 people. But for now, we have 5 deaths, which generally will be ancillary, somewhat important characters. And I'm going to erase deaths and I'm going to include ancillary characters. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible so you can see it. I've already decided that one is girlfriend. Let's name her Shannon. No, Sharon. And then your other four ancillary characters are characters that within horror, within slashers, there's a set number of characters that have and share screen time with the main character and or the killers. Some of them are integral to the story, some of them are somewhat important, and some of them are not important at all. You have to decide these 5 characters are important to the main character and his girlfriend. This is the second lead, Sharon, okay? the best way I can lay it out for you is Scream. Look at Scream and look at the main characters that movie had. And that movie, by 1996 standards, is how we still approach the horror and specifically slasher genre right now. Okay? That movie had Neve Campbell, Sydney, Tatum, Randy, Stu, Billy, Gail, and Deputy Dewey. That's 7 characters. 7 characters. The rest, there are other characters that die on screen. 3 off the top of my head. Some of those characters die. Tatum dies. Randy dies. Stu dies. And the boyfriend dies. Sorry, my mind's slipping. And Dewey is severely injured. He's a red herring left at the end to find out that he's not actually dead. But that layout is still used today predominantly. So if that were to be the case for this, and Ted is one of the main characters used of the 6, and then you have 5 ancillary characters, Ted would be like Stu or God, I don't know why I can't remember the boyfriend's name. It's one of my favorite movies. He's the killer. We know he's the killer. He has to be the killer. Has to be. So we know we're building the story around that. Okay? The ancillary characters would be, say, his girlfriend, which would be like the Sydney role. All right? And then you have other main characters. I'm just going to try to come up with 4 names. Yeah, so this is your main cast list right here. These are the 6 characters you're going to focus on. Ballpark number, half of them need to die. Now, half of them, Ted Bundy can be one. You can jump forward to his execution, and that can be one. It just has to be shown as part of the movie. So now we have these 6 characters. The Inciting Incident. I know that Ted was extremely charismatic. He was a lawyer. A lot of his killings happened in college or when he was a little bit older. But let's say, again, this is making stuff up for the sake of this. To give you an example, do not make up false facts about real people to pad your movie or your script. People are going to call you out on it. All right, you can stretch the truth, can't break the truth. Okay. But for the sake of this, let's just say, because I'm writing this, Inciting Incident. Going to actually use a little bit from Zodiac, the Zodiac Killer, and what I know about his history. And again, I apologize. The stroke fucks my memory up. I'm trying to remember as good as I can. These Cass Goes Camping. Attacked at campsite. let's say, robbers, attack him in the middle of the night or something, anything. Ted kills one in self-defense. So right here would be your first 30 pages. Your cast goes camping. They're attacked at the campsite. Ted kills one of them in self-defense. That should just about, along with introducing these characters, bring you up to about 30 pages. Now, where you want to get specific and need to care about this is two main things. Number one, it is illegal to kill somebody. So it needs to be addressed that he was arrested, questioned. Basically, the police let him go, understanding that there's nothing to really hold him for murder or manslaughter. It was an act purely of self-defense. If he didn't do it, they were going to kill him and his friends. So, murder is not legal. That's important to remember. Please remember that. Ted questioned, released. That has to play out. It has to play out because your audience needs to see the fallout of what happens in this sequence. And then it's building up to one specific thing. And that's a realization, and that realization happens on page 30 or very close to it. Ted realizes he enjoys it. At some point, if you're writing a movie about a serial killer, they realize that there is a deep-seated, deep-rooted necessity for them to kill. They may come up with various different excuses. Look at the list of serial killers that have been caught and their excuses as to why they did it. But Ted, in many of his interviews, basically said, you know what, I enjoyed doing it. That's why I did it. I can't tell you why I did it or what caused it, but I enjoyed it. There needs to be that moment because the average viewer knows who Ted Bundy is. They just saw him do something that's heroic in saving his friends, and they're thinking, well, this isn't the story I remember. There needs to be that moment, that click, somewhere around page 30 where it goes, he goes, I like that. I like that more than I should. I like that more than is normal. He needs to have that moment of darkness come in. So that's the point we're up to in our script so far. That's roughly page 30. And then introductions I'm going to include as first 5 to 25 pages. All right. Introductions are basically where we meet these six: Ted, Sharon, Miguel, Andy, Beth, Jacqueline. We meet them, we get to know them, we decide whether or not we like them. Jacqueline, very attractive, sporty, preppy. At the time in the 70s and 80s, she would have been very preppy, not usually one to hang out with these guys, but she does for whatever reason, mostly to see boobs at some point in the movie. I'm going to get to that. Beth, same thing, but instead of preppy, she's nerdy, books, wears glasses. Velma. So you have the Daphne and you have the Velma of the group. Andy and Miguel, lifelong friends. They've known Ted for his childhood, a good portion of it. Go to school with them. Sharon is Ted's girlfriend. Sharon needs to be... These rules have changed a little bit, and I might go back and make a video of the new rules, of the old versus new rules for writing horror. But there are horror rules that you have to follow. It used to be that Sharon would have to be a virgin. She'd be a virgin character. She'd be very conservative, moral. I'm saving myself for marriage. Society doesn't really lend itself to that anymore. So, there are liberties taken, and the movie The Cabin in the Woods covers this fairly well, actually, by the end of it. If you haven't seen The Cabin in the Woods, highly recommend. It's hilarious and gory. But Sharon, she's reserved. She's unsure about a lot of things. Very concerned about college and what she's going to do with her life, and in many ways the most mature of the group. Miguel, Andy, they can be joking, they can be stoners, they can be dickheads, whatever. She's not. She has to be a good girl. Same thing with Beth and Jacqueline. They can be whores. Not calling all women whores. They can be whores. They can literally, you could shoot porn with them on set for a fifth of the movie, and they're going to have questionable morals, okay? She's not. And by the end of the movie, Ted is not going to have questionable morals. He's going to be a villain. But for the start of the movie, he's her boyfriend. He's very unsure but confident, very charismatic naturally. So they'd have to worry about casting somebody that just, excuse me. For instance, Zac Efron would be perfect casting. As a matter of fact, I think he was actually Ted Bundy in a movie. I don't know. But yeah, so there's your 6. That's your introduction. Between page 5 and 25, your introductions are played out. That can be conversations with their parents, siblings, each other. They can be shown playing sports as to representing their personalities a little bit. You're wanting to show as much of their personality as you can. So, with that said, that is part 2 of my video series. That is through page 30, the first act of your feature film script. Check back for part 3. If you guys haven't, please like and subscribe the video below, and more content will be coming to you forthwith.